Okay, I found another Birch Lane item that I really liked, so I'm going to recreate it today. If you're not subscribed, check out some of my previous videos, let me know what you think in the comments below, and hit that subscribe button. But don't forget, I always try and link everything I use in the description below. And if I can't find what I used, I try and link something as close as possible. Here we go. Hey guys, and welcome to my channel where we do DIY projects, crafts, and a little bit of organization, but all on a budget. Come check out today's video.
Alright, so we are starting out with the Waverly Chalk Paint in Hazelnut, as well as Waverly Chalk Paint in Truffle. Today is the day I removed the seal from the paint, so I just wiped that all over because I don't like to waste paint.
And I'm just gonna go ahead and put a little bit of this as well as that in here. Gonna start out with just a little bit because I don't know how much I'm gonna need, and I'd rather have had enough than too much, because I don't like to waste it. Gonna kind of mix them and move it around. Okay, there's that one, and now onto a pie pan.
So, as you can see, I'm just doing the exact same thing for this one. I'm not matching up the colors really exactly because of the project itself. It's a little bit more of a rustic farmhousey type look. Then I went ahead and I used my roaster, and I wanted to take this edge off because that's not even with the rest of it. And so I'm removing that, and then I'm cutting straight down, and I want to take this piece that's kind of crinkled back and forth off. So I'm going to cut all the way around and get that piece. I probably could have pulled this craft off with leaving this edge as big as it is, but for whatever reason I decided I was going to cut it in half, so that's what I'm doing here now. I'm trying to figure out the best way to cut it in half, if I just fold it or what exactly. So I had this extra piece and I decided to bend that in half and then kind of use that as a stencil, but as I got going it was really easy to keep my place on where half was, well, relatively, and I didn't care if it was exactly, so I just went for it the rest of the way. For this next part, I do need to warn you, if you don't like messy hands, then I would probably choose to wear some gloves. The paint does tend to get a little bit on everything. So then what I used is I used a makeup brush for one, and then I also tried using the sponge brushes that you can get from the Dollar Tree with the handle, and I liked that one a lot better. I liked the texture it left, and I also felt like it left a lot less of a mess. So here my plan was to just go ahead and take some hot glue and take one edge at a time and glue it on all the way around. But as you can see in a minute, I put the hot glue on, and when I went to put my piece on, it was already dried. So I had to go bit by bit. Hot glue is definitely not the most permanent bond between these two metals. Metals? Yeah. And so I would definitely use like E6000 or Gorilla Glue if you're going to be having it up for a while. Also, it is a little bit warm. You can feel the hot glue through the aluminum part. So you do want to be a little bit careful about how much you put on and how long you hold it, and if you hold it in the exact spot you put it. Anyhow, yeah, all that stuff. My plan was to use this car mat and just cut on the ridges that it had to make two strips that would hold the jar in. But by the end, I did not like how it looked. I felt like the car mat was too thick. I thought that it was not sturdy enough. I didn't like the difference in materials. Basically, there's nothing about it I liked. So here's what I did.
So I decided I was going to go ahead and take these off because I thought they were too thick, and I wanted to go ahead and go all the way through, so I just took my screwdriver with the flathead. This one's a really old one, obviously, and my hammer. I just hammered it through so that I had a straight line, so you can see it goes all the way through. How I knew where to do it was when I pulled this off, you can see it leaves like a mark, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it and make the holes and then go back and like paint it. Ugh, that one doesn't want to come off, but that's what I'm going to do.
So after I went ahead and I removed both of the strips, here's an example of how I just took my screwdriver and I hammered through the pie pan. And what I'm doing here is I'm pressing down so I kind of have an indent, and that way I'll know exactly where I want to hammer and it'll be a little easier to get through.
Here's the bottom of the roaster, and all I did was I took a rolling pin and I rolled on it on a flat surface, and I had cut into it earlier, so I'm just going to kind of cut some strips, and I'm going to make them about as thick as I made the holes in the pan. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to paint it, and then I'm going to touch up the pan.
So here are the strips that I had cut, and I did go ahead and put 2 coats on the side that would be showing and only 1 coat on the back side, just because I knew you'd see a little bit of it through the jar, but not all of it. Here I'm just going to go ahead and taper the edges just a little bit by folding one of the corners over onto itself, and then it slides through really nicely. I did that on both sides and I made this cute little loop. Later on you'll notice that I did go ahead and make the loop a little bit smaller because I decided to use a smaller jar, and this actually worked out better because then when I have the pie pan flipped over with the front side facing the floor, it doesn't actually mess with that loop that I made. You'll notice here when I put the hot glue on that I do go ahead and cover the entire piece that's on there, just the edges, the outline, because I don't want it to scrape up the wall at all. I did go ahead and change this and I pulled it through a little bit more, and you'll notice that later on when I show you because I did decide on that smaller jar. To finish these crafts up, what we're going to do is use some of the Dollar Tree nautical rope, and you might notice that it is now 9.5 feet instead of 13, and I can't tell for sure because I'm out of my 13-inch, but I feel like this is a lot tighter and thinner than it used to be. But we're going to go ahead and use a little bit of this to just finish up the top. Since it has this lip and the picture didn't have it, I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. I think it'll hold better than if I put it back here, because I think if I put it back here it's going to be too much and it's going to lean forward because of the vase, whereas if I put it here at the top, then it's going to hang straight up and down. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of this nautical rope there as a hanger. Before we see the final project, let's total everything up. We have $1 for the pie pan, $1 for the brownie pan, $1 for the roaster. We have the truffle paint, which is $5.97, and the hazelnut paint, which is $5.97. The brushes were $1 and the rope was $1. So if I hadn't had anything on hand and I started from scratch, my total would be about $17. First I tried a piece a little closer to the fern that they originally had, but I didn't like it, so we ditched it, and I added some dried out flowers. So here's a look at the final piece. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I can't wait to see you guys again next week. Bye-bye!